morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. While people are floating in, we're going to start, as promised, at 9 o'clock with our second Lean Unplugged session, especially for you to get to know the techniques and methodologies, the philosophy of Lean a little better. So today is the second session. The former time was in June, and we had talked about the cells, and now we're going to talk about the Gemba Walk. My name is Jeroen Verberg. I'm the host of today. I will guide you through the session, and with me are experts that can talk you through this very interesting subject. So let's first go to the program of this session. We tend to do this every month for the people that are new with us. Every month we do a 90-minute session of one Lean topic. And our objective is that we try to give you a kick start in practice. So Lean is not only about understanding something about Kanban and pool and waste, etc., etc. It's about getting things done as well, and that's the objective of this particular session. So what we're going to do is with you 90 minutes of a deep dive in the Gemba Walk, which will be 20 minutes of an introduction on the Gemba Walk that will be presented by my colleagues, who I will introduce in a second. So 20 minutes is one flow of information. Please, if you have any questions, write them down for yourself. And then after the 20 minutes, the 70 minutes of questions and answers starts, which means you can ask our experts every question you want on the Gemba Walk and related topics. So we are particularly here for you to help you today with the next step in applying the Gemba Walk and applying Lean. So what I would like to ask you in the first place is, for the first 20 minutes, please switch off your microphone, put it on mute. You can, of course, leave your screen on, your camera on, and then we will go through the 20 minutes of presentation. The presentation will be done in cooperation with Makoto Flow. That's our partners, Makoto Flow from Japan, and DJ will introduce himself in a second. But first, let me introduce the complete Lean team that we have here available for you, to support you, to coach you. First place, Boudewijn, my colleague for you on the left side on the screen. He is our Gemba core specialist, performing Gemba walks, 5S, visual management, everything that has to do with the activities on the Gemba with the operators and the team leaders. Then you will see DJ, a guru and expert in Lean and optimizations of companies. He goes from board of directors to the shop floor with operators to transform and to optimize organizations. And not with us this time, but probably the next time, is Deze, absolute brilliant in designing production lines and the creation of flow. So if you have any stops in your production flow, call Bart. So having said that, a brief introduction about Patagonia. For those who do not know us, we have 4 major activities. We guide you in leadership development, lean manufacturing implementation, quality management and strategy, and all with the idea to transform your organization to a market-leading position. If you want to know more, please feel free to call us or to write or send an email. And then I'd like to introduce Makoto Flow. DJ, can I give the word to you to introduce yourself, Makoto Flow?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I think, so first of all, my name is DJ Duarte. I'm based right here in Japan. I'm right near Hiroshima, Japan. So I'm coming to you live from a very rainy season environment currently. Makoto Flow is a simple organization. It basically uses the Toyota production system as its core services that we try to provide. And within that, we do optimization, which is on-site consulting, right? We also have this coaching program that we work with, many general managers, operations managers, or those internal positions in organizations that try to do optimization. They could be, Six Sigma people or CI people, it doesn't matter. We also have training workshops that we provide to our clients. We don't actually do public ones, we do private ones only. And of course, we also have tours to Japan. And we'll talk a little bit more about those tours to Japan here in a moment. Next slide, please. So that tour that we were referencing, I guess I'll turn it back to you, Jeroen, or shall I talk to it?
Oh, you can explain it. The tour of Japan is organized by your company, Makoto Flow.
Right.
It's for the Dutch people. It's interesting to know that it's a study tour. It's 1 week of studying lean in Japan, actually. And DJ will guide us and you through the companies to really experience lean. At the end of the presentation of today, at the end of the 90 minutes, DJ will explain more and more detailed about the organization, the pricing, etc. So hang on after the 90 minutes.
Yeah, I usually say it's worth investing in. It's worth getting at least you there once a year or once every 5 years, something of that nature, to keep that burning embers lit. So good. Next slide, please. All right, so let's get into the topic today. So I'll start my clock here. We're about 6 minutes after. So about 4 or 26 after the hour, we should be through these slide decks. So you've all heard of Taiichi Ohno, probably. If you haven't, he is the father of TPS, basically the guy who was in charge of deploying it within the Toyota manufacturing sites. Yeah. And so what I really like about TPS is, it stands for the Toyota Production System, but he always expressed it as it's a thinking people system. It's how you get people involved. And one of the principles of TPS is no involvement, no commitment. So this is the way they wanted to make sure they get the commitment. Yeah, is getting them to think about what they do and how they do it. Next slide, please. And the way they did that is really interesting. When you talk about what is the glue of any organization, it's the structure that is built, but the people inside of it is what makes it really work. Yeah, and so there are two sort of avenues that TPS works. One is from the bottom up, and that's the getting the people to, go see, do Gemba walks, do those simple 3S activities. You might be good at 5S and 6S, but you got to be really good at 3S, creating some simple rules, creating that motivation, making them focused on, we're here to be productive, and productivity is a cost thing. And then you educate them on how that works. Yeah. And so that's both from a flowing type of mechanism like just in time, and it's also from a quality mechanism like Jidoka. And so we try to level all of that out to make sure that we meet all the demands. But from the top down, it's a little bit different. So the bottom up is sort of like small ideas that are being implemented, thousands of them, every single week. And then top down is more like very strategic. Why are we doing lean? What is the value of it? And then we start to align the behaviors of the management team to support that. And that drives sort of the foundational mindset of how to get everyone involved. So in Toyota, all I just want to say is the house drives everything, and it's about taking care of people and making sure that they maximize their capabilities. Yeah. Next slide, please. So the theme for today basically is about how do we actually have a great, powerful Gemba walk, And so the primary teaching model, I show there's a little baby on here and we're holding the hands, right? When you go to do a Gemba walk for real and you just go and look at boards, that's not really a very productive way of doing it. So how I learned was I got some mentorship through Isayo Kato-san, and he basically was my master and I was his apprentice. And we traveled around the world, and I observed how he went to the Gemba, how he started at the end of the value stream and worked upstream, and then walked it again downstream so you could see everything. Yeah. So this is what we're going to try to do: give you a nice little model of how you should actually go to the Gemba. Yeah. Next slide, please. So when we look at organizations, everybody's involved in a certain way, right? And if you look at the left-hand side, you got a lot of the structure of the organization, from the employees doing the standard work to the leaders and supervisors that are managing them, and then of course the top management that are thinking about the future. But as you see, as you look down towards the bottom of the page, the whole point of all these people is that when you go to Gemba, you're going there to go see something, to understand the situations. A lot of times people like to sit in boardrooms or like to do video conferences and talk about a topic. Well, a lot of times I would take my laptop and go to the Gemba and show them this is the issue that we're doing, so that we make it really real. And the second thing is we ask a lot of questions, and if you ask the question correctly, you'll get the right way the right response that you're seeking. In other words, getting the people to think about what is actually happening. If you just go why, like some people love to do, you're sort of being very critical. So we'll talk about how to go to Gemba and ask the right questions. And the last thing is, work that people do is the primary reason why they come to the job. They love the people that they work with. They love the kind of job that they're doing. And so we have to show respect to that. And the best way we can do that is actually make their jobs both safer, easier, and more enjoyable to do. And that's how we're going to actually talk about how to show respect. Okay, next slide, please. So going to the Gemba, the go see kind of activity. A lot of people, they go to the Gemba because it's a standard thing they do every single day. But the reality of the situation is that we need to have a purpose when we go to Gemba. Right? And that purpose means that we are helping the organization become stronger together and aligned better. So I often go into organizations just like my partners there at Patagonia do. They go into the organization to understand something, and so that they know exactly how to help. Well, a leader, any leader, whether you're a team leader, a group leader, area manager, a director, whatever the title might be, the goal is that when you go to Gemba, you have a purpose to make something better, not just to see it, not just to understand it. Yeah. But we're always looking at processes. And I think this is critical, that the process of how a person does something, their motion, if you really take the time to look, you will see it. And then you'll understand how to make it easier, maybe even safer for them, right? But we're always looking at the kind of processes that they're actually doing. And then, of course, when we look at the people, we want to make that individual themselves be more proud, or be more, maybe if they're off standard, how to get them back on a standard, right? If they have their emotions are going through the roof that day because of your EI, the emotional index is indicating it. You can have a little talk to them. So there's always a real purpose to engaging the people the right way so that they can achieve more. Next slide, please. So what we like to use is the word power. Yeah. So proper observation will eliminate risk. And when we say risk, we're talking about all of the things that we normally talk about. We're talking about the waste. We're talking about the 3 Mus. We're talking about, what to do about them and so forth. So we're trying to eliminate risk. And so I learned this a long time ago as an OSHA person, and OSHA stands for Occupational Health and Safety Agency. So this little circle that you see here on the right, bottom right, you'll notice that is a footprint. And I actually put that into a factory in China so that everybody knew exactly where to stand when they went to the Gemba, to be able to see everything. Yeah. But what I had to teach them first was, what is that purpose for going? So there are typically 4 traditional ways or rationales for going to the Gemba. Yeah. And that is, first, you have either a flow issue or a problem issue that you have a solution for. Yeah. So you want to see how that solution is actually working. Yeah. The second is that you're actually shooting for what we call mutatori, which means wasteful activities, right? So we've got the 7, 8 waste, and some organizations have 155 waste, right? But we like to call it joy killers. And the reason why that term has been coined is when you have wasteful things that you're doing, you're taking the joy out of the work. So the easier that you can help people with, the joy comes back. Yeah. And then the third reason why you go there is for problems. You want to understand a problem better, and you want to understand what you truly want to achieve. Yeah. And then the last one is, what kind of improvements can we make? So you might find safety issues. You might find, some performance issues. You might find some, waste that are happening in a thing that you can actually mold into a Kaizen kind of 2 to 5 day kind of event to resolve and help the overall value stream. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Excellent, DJ. Thank you for a lot of information in a short period. That's your expertise. Excellent. We come back to you in a second, but after all this information, it's maybe nice to have some examples of how this theory is brought into practice, and then we continue with the theory. Boudewijn, these are examples of your Gemba walks. What happens over here?
I want to take you with to a Gemba walk I did a year ago at a client site, and when walking down the Gemba downstream, we across the situation, you see on the left-hand side, you see a photo, and I asked the people I did the Gemba Walk with, what can you please explain what I see here? And one of the operators said, what you see here is a pile of sheet metal platework, powder coated, waiting for transport to the end assembly. And then I said, okay, but is this a storage area or is it a production area? And then he said, yes, this is a production area as it is designed for production, but with because we have not so many space, we put it just here. And then I said, but you don't have so many space, so what do you do with this pile of sheet metal? And then he said, yeah, we had to replace it several times. But then I asked, is it safe? Is the material safe? And then he said, no, because as you can see, there are bumps and scratches and it's bent. And as you can see under on the left side of the photo. And then I said, okay, can you tell me how long it has been here? It has been here, he said, for several weeks, as you can see the dust on top of the sheet metal. And then I said, okay, wow. So, but what's the purpose of this sheet metal? Which production order it belongs to? And then they went on looking for labels or something written on where it, which might share this information, and they couldn't find it. So I said, then we can conclude we don't know where it's produced for. It's stored in a production area. How do you transport it? Yeah, normally we use a palletizer. Is that convenient for you? And then he said, not very much, as we always have to look for one. They're always occupied. And so I said, that's thank you for all the information. But what if we turn this information around? And then they said, what do you mean? I said, if we make it more convenient for you, for example, transport it easy, so you know where to go to with it, not looking for palletizer, making a storage equipment, for example, so damage will not arise anymore. What would you say to that? And then they said that would be wonderful, and that was the starting point of a journey.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So that's a nice example of the go see, as DJ just explained. You went there to see, and you lured the operators also to see. You go there with respect, and you learn them to see. Excellent. Looking at the time, DJ, the next slide is about ask why activities. So first we have seen it, and now it is about asking the questions. Can you continue?
Right. Yeah, I love that, because, you know, the three pictures we just saw here, if you just take it on its merit, there's actually, you know, there's some questions in your head. And so as a leader, when you go to the shop floor, the first thing you want to do is learn to ask what. So naturally link it to what. What is the value of that parked here? Or what is the value of that moving all the time? Yeah. And so once you get that started, what you're doing is you're connecting with a person and asking for their expertise. And that's why this kind of good methodology of asking questions really connects with the people. Once you've gotten on the same level as that individual or that team that you're working with, then you start to ask how. Sometimes you can ask why, but I would stay away from why for a reason. A long time ago, one of my professors, Dr. Bear, said when anybody asks you why, they're actually attacking your integrity. And I want you to think about it for a moment. Any question that you ask with a why in it, you could reframe it and ask how, what, when, where, and other ways to get the same kind of result. So that's why we sort of go to the how. You know, how is this beneficial to your time when you're moving it always? How is this beneficial to the product when you're breaking it, as, you know, Baldwin was alluding to? Yeah. And then the step 3 is, once you've gotten to that point and they've shared and they realize, you know, something isn't go, then you come up with like a what if. What if we did this for you? What if we came down here, helped you organize an area where you could put things that haven't been there for a while? Yeah. so that we can start to track it so we know how long it's been here, and we can also then do something about it. Would you be interested in that? And then people usually they're wide open and say, sure, no problem. And then if you get to the last point, and you really want to get the creativity juices in that individual going, that's when you ask the why not. So if they tell you, no, we shouldn't move it, then you ask them, why not? What's preventing you from doing that? And we call this the black hat thinking, because out of the book, six hats of thinking. Yeah. And this is where you're sort of challenging, their current paradigm. And it's okay to do it at this time because you've established that rapport and that gentle kindness between you and the individual you're talking to, right? Or the team. Next slide, please. So when we start to show that respect, because of the way we actually go to the Gemba and we use the what, the how, the what if, and the why not, yeah, we then can actually start showing respect towards that individual, because they're like, wow, they're asking us our opinions. Nobody ever asks us our opinion. They always make the decision and enforce it to us, and that's always a bad thing. So we like to tell people, if you really want to create great value at your work, start thinking about avoiding the disrespects that occur for the individuals and the teams. And the first thing that we talk about is moody. Moody is in Japanese means overburdening. Yeah. So sometimes it's the process that's overburdening them, or it's the volume that's overburdening them, or it's the actual workload itself that the individual must do. So when I go to places like Taiwan or China, or I go to, places like Malaysia and Singapore, I watch people do stuff with their hands and they're pushing this all day long. My thumb is going to be hurting at the end of the day, for sure. So that's a form of disrespect, and we've got to sort of work on that. And then when you start looking at the system in itself, not just the workers, but you start looking at the system, you're really looking for that wasteful things that go in there. And I got to tell you, the 3 wastes that you should focus on right up front is, first, transportation. Yeah. Anything that has to constantly be moving. For example, Bowden mentioned about that pallet having to be moved all the time. That's a bad thing. That's a wasteful activity. It's not helping anybody. In fact, when I do a videotape of a manufacturing value stream map, I count how many transportation efforts are done. And usually it's 50% of the time. Yep, that they're actually having to move it to something. Second thing is you really want to focus in on stagnation, where stuff stops, right? Where it stays for a while. So some of those things just have been parked there forever. And that takes away from your flexibility of your system to be able to be more effective. And the third thing that we do is the motions, how people have to actually do the work, the motion, the reaching, the bending, the stretching type of activities. And we really want to sort of do what we call the muda, which is the variation or fluctuation in how they actually have to accomplish what they do all the time. And in doing so, that's when we understand how to make things more even instead of being uneven. And therefore, the people, the customers, the system, and everything just works in true alignment. So when you think about the flow of what I was sharing with you, showing respects means relying on the people. It means developing those people, and it also means challenging those people so that we can get even better. Okay, next slide, please. Here's just a visual of those 3 steps, if you may. First of all, the 3 Mus, so you can see and how it works. Every system has this variation, the unevenness, if you may, which is the muda. It also has the moody. You're overburdening somewhere, someplace, some people, and you also have lots of waste in it naturally. You'll never take out all the waste in a process. It'll never happen. There's always going to be some forms of waste. But your goal is, instead of having big overburdening type of process flows, you really want small, continuous type of situations like that. And then, of course, in the middle, we've got the waste, the 7 wastes, and someday we'll talk really in detail about these wastes. And then, of course, our process of then doing something about either the Mus or the waste themselves via the ERCA or S, sometimes simplify, is embedded. And of course, I just think that that's a way that you can, when you take stuff out of a process, people are forever grateful, because now it's no longer painful to them, because they're the ones that told you. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much, DJ. So going back to practice, going back to the Gemba, Boudewijn. In the first slide, you show how you went to the Gemba, ask questions, and let them learn to see.
Sure.
And now we see the results. What happened with the people here?
Yeah, I made some suggestions. What if we change your situation, make it better for you, make it more convenient? And then they said, what do you mean? And then I said, for example, put some wheels under your product, make some extra storage area. So they began brainstorming, and we did it a week later in a VSM. And they decided to, for example, to design a cart, which you see on the photos, 3 photos on the left. They decided in such way that they can use it as a storage area. They broke down different things. They also designed a postal address on which it's very clear where it has to go. And now they use a system of a water strider. When the plate work is finished producing, the postal address is put on it. A working instruction says how to put the plate work in the right order on the cart, and then a jumper comes, takes the cart very easy without looking for a palletizer to the exact location at the end assembly where it is consumed. And now they're even making a next step, is that they put the postal address during production automatically without human intervention, which means there is also no misunderstanding which number I have to write down. They also asked me, okay, now we did all this, what did we save? And then the next process started, because I learned them to do a spaghetti diagram, how to measure cycle times, takt times, to fit it all into the production system. And now the operation, because I'm talking only about operators, are really going to see learning how to improve, and with very easy methods like counting, calculating, they now can go to the management and say, hey, we found this, you do it like this and this and this, and then we improve the situation. So we give them a lot of tools to improve the Gemba by themselves.
It's quite impressive. So that's all done by a Gemba Walk.
Yeah.
They didn't go to school, they didn't go to a course, they didn't go to some external training. It was just you and the manager asking questions,
Exactly.
looking at the Gemba, unlocking the potential of the people themselves, and they did all this.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Jeroen and Boudewijn, it's very interesting. I've been consulting for many years, and I actually took 2 years of my consulting and documented, what companies were, they spend a lot of time on. And what I found is that leaders themselves, and I don't care if you're a shop floor leader, a mid-tier leader, an executive leader, you spend about 38% of your time searching for information, searching for things.
Yeah.
So this kind of simple, an address, the cart system, so that it's easy to handle with one hand, it really makes that 38% of your wasteful activity of searching for something easy to find and then easy to move. Yeah. So
Exactly.
Great, good on you. Fantastic move.
Excellent. So in the next slide, I believe there's some examples of yourself, DJ.
Yeah, so I just want everyone to know that Gemba walks happen everywhere. They happen in offices. They happen, in let's say you happen to be in some sort of engineering section, like you see down in the right-hand corner there of ABB. It happens everywhere, restaurants, you name it. So it's all about good people and then creating good products. That's what Toyota has in their factories. They always say good people, good products. And what that means is, if I'm helping people get better, establishing their capabilities, creating better competencies, but also making their lives at work easier and safer and better, then guaranteed we're going to get good products. But if I'm not doing that, there's no guarantee for that. And so the power of the Gemba Walk is everywhere, and you should take the time every single week as a senior manager to walk the Gemba, as a team leader, group leader, or area manager every single day, not just once, maybe 5 times. And my sensei would right now say to you, well, if you just go to the Gemba to look, to see, to understand, but you actually do nothing with your hands and you don't have to clean them, you wasted your time. So when you go there, do something. Yeah. Get your hands dirty 5 times a day, once a day, something, so that they see you mean business. Yeah. So that's the power of the Gemba Walks.
Clear message to bring abroad. Thank you, TJ.
No worries.
Next slide, please. The next slide is, we are at the end of the presentation. I forgot to mention in the beginning that the presentation will be available for you. So we organize that later. But now we have had the little long 20 minutes of the presentation, and we go over to the second part. So to the audience, I would like to ask you to all switch on your mics, so that we can have a mutual conversation with each other. So if you can switch on your camera and switch on your microphone, we can all see you, and then you can also see each other, and then we can have a large group discussion or bringing examples and asking questions all together. So
the other thing I'd like to mention, I just want to mention something. If you have a question, we ask that you use the reaction button down on the right-hand side there to raise your hand. That way, when you raise your hand, if somebody would do that, Ralph, why don't you raise your hand real quick? Just do that for us to help us out. There's a reaction button. Click on it, and you can raise your hand. See what happens? So what'll happen is that you'll go straight to the top of the screen, and we know who wants to ask questions in sequence. Okay? So that way we'll get to everybody.
Ralph, do you actually have a question, or shall we go to Marco? Marco, you raised your hand. Marco.
I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me, by the way, first? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Marco.
Okay, I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm a big fan of Gemba Walks. I used to do it in my previous company. So in my new company, I'm working at Neste, which is a global company, producer of renewable fuels. But that's more a operation where it's, I would say, almost continuous flow. You know, of course there's batch production, but it's in really large scale, and there's no physical contact with product typically. It's operators behind panels, and I think Gemba Walks are excellent there as well, because it's all an element of safety. But it's more looking towards what Boudewijn was kind of presenting, you know, with those carts and trolleys and this kind of elements. How would you envision that for, let's say, a larger company with continuous flow, production lines, product flowing to pipeline, where there's not, let's say, a lot of real hands-on from operator?
Yeah.
If I can respond to that, then I was walking down a Gemba with the director of operations a few years ago, and I saw an operator, and he was just standing like this, just near a machine. And then I asked this director of operations, "Can you please tell me what he's doing?" And then he said, "He's listening." And then I said, "Listening, what do you mean?" He listens if the operations, if the fluid is going in the right way through the pipes. And then I said, "Why?" And then he said, "Because we found a defect in the flow yesterday. We saw it on the panel electronically, but we couldn't find where the damage was coming from." So, but as this operator is standing in the factory all the time, he walks through the pipes and the machines. He knows every sound. So that's the way they did the Gemba Walk, for example.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Boudewijn, because the truth of the matter is we use all 5 senses when we go to the Gemba, and there are certain processes, certain procedures where you have to taste it. Yeah. So, for example, when I'm working with Givaudan that I did over here in Japan as well as in Singapore, they had on one side of the factory was what we would call flavors, right? So you would make soy sauce, hot spicy sauce, that kind of stuff. So you go in there, and the best way to get a feel of things is listening to the machines, vibrations, sometimes feeling things, you know, holding it, seeing if it's going right. And other times you had to taste it. So it's always about that. Yeah. It's always about using your senses.
Right.
But Marco, Was there a very particular question inside your question that you really want me to address, or was it just a statement? Because I usually what we do is
no.
boom,
Yeah,
we make.
Now go. Yeah, I think you're right about that, and I think it's elaborate. It's for me more about I used to work in a company where we had the access over, let's say, doing all those elements as Boudewijn kind of explained. I've been through that and great successes. I recognize it's really great. Up to the point that really operators, when I got back to the plant, came over to me and said, "Okay, do you have some time? I want to show you what our next improvement step was." Okay, then I think we're getting to the level where you want to be. But now at a larger scale plant with huge millions of tons of products being produced, where you have to start a culture of creating Gemba walks and creating that mindset, you get often the question, okay, yeah, but you know, it's all okay. There's nothing to improve, you know, and it's more that cultural aspect that you have to overcome, I think, to also convince people, yes, Gemba walks are great. They can help you, and they will help you definitely also in your ways of working. And so for me, the underlying question is, how would you, let's say, typically convince, how would you in that kind of larger scale, not really single piece flow kind of operations, also get the Gemba walks up to a level that people are thinking, wow, it helps me.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing, and I'm going to share a little joke with you, but it's a reality. I walked into an engineering department and they go to the Gemba only when there's a problem. Yeah. So they design the problems, and so they go and they look at it to try to fix it. Well, I walked into the lead engineer's office one day and I sat down on his chair and I slipped right off of it. I was like, what in the world? He actually cut 4 inches off the front of the chair so it sits this way so nobody could stay on his chair. And he basically said, if there's something you want me to understand, let's go to the Gemba. We're not going to sit here and talk about it. Right? So the whole idea is, if you happen to work in an office, get out of the office, go closer to the Gemba, go to the people that you work. I don't care if you're in HR, you're in engineering, you happen to be in, quality management, go to the Gemba, learn things, get people involved. And I think that's critical. Now, Miguel was writing some question points here. And I got to tell you, Miguel, we don't accept written questions. You can only come with an open mic and a video. That's why it's called Lean Unplugged. Yeah. So it's like your open mic night. So if you want to ask a question, click that little hands up and you'll go right to the top and we'll answer your question. Yeah. But the other thing I would say to Marco is also, how do you get people involved? Well, first you start with 1, and then you create 2, and then you multiply every single time. So you start with 1, you go to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. You start getting people involved and you start going to their places. They don't come to your place. But what you do after that first or second iteration is you invite them to your place, so they can see that you're doing the exact same things that you're wanting them, or that you're seeing is occurring there. And they can learn about your job and you can learn about my job. Yesterday's coaching call that I had with some Dominican Republic folks, they're in procurement, purchasing, and they created their standard work, their leader standard work, and they put on their, go to the Gemba around these particular, requests for products. They wanted to see the product. They wanted to understand the product. They wanted to do everything. So you're even in procurement, you can go to the Gemba to actually understand things more. And that's the power of it. So I think you were spot on, Marco, and thanks for the question.
Thank you very much.
Thanks also for, well, by the way, great kudos. I like the abbreviation called POWER, and I wrote it down because it's a great proper observation. Really amazing. Thanks for that.
You got it. Hey, last thing, Marco, I want to share one thing with Marco. Believe it or not, when I shared that word power, the Chinese ABB Shanghai Engineering Group made their lean team called Power, and they created vests and put the proper observation will eliminate risk. So I'm glad you caught something great out of it.
Yeah, I hope I can steal this. I hope I can steal this shamelessly, DJ.
All right, no problem.
No problem. All right, we go to the next
3
question.
hands are up.
Palin.
Yeah,
Who's Palin? Please raise your question. Palin, if I pronounce it correct, Palin.
Cannot hear you.
We don't hear you yet.
Maybe your device is not plugged in or something. Yeah.
So then we go.
We hear you now. Click on it again. Go ahead. Say something. Yep.
Okay. Good.
Good.
So this is Pelin. I'm a lead manager of a company, and I've been in the industry for 12 years. So I really like this introduction again. So I refresh my set also. My question is, from your experiences also, what is the critical ingredient for a sustainment Gemba mindset? Which spark we are looking for? Because not every time is going in a flow. We have ups and downs. We started, but from your perspective, what is the spark for the sustainment?
If
For sustainment of what? I want to be very clear. Sustainment of what?
Gemba mindset. Okay, we start the
Okay.
Gemba walks, but
Okay.
2 months later or 3 months later, or yeah, whatever, it stops. So we going again. But what is the most important and critical things to do it in a sustainment way?
I'll let my Patagonia friends start with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. Thank you, Pelin, for asking this, because it's a very good question. What is very important, if you want to go through with this, make it a standard, which means do it every time, every week, at the same time, with the same group of people, and just do it every week, every time. It's like every standard, like 5S, 6S, every week at the same time. There is no reason for not doing it, because then you have every week a reason. So that's the most important advice I can give you, and it will work. Yeah.
Okay. DJ?
Yep. Yeah, let me add to that. I think you brought the very first step. I think there's 3 steps to it. Yeah. So we call it the 3 big ideas. All right. First one is standard work. The second one is visual management. And the third one is continuous improvement, or Kaizen. Right. So how do you create that kind of, sustainment with people? Well, first of all, there's got to be discipline. Yeah. So that's why the standard work exists, as Baldwin was alluding to. You have to put it into your own leader standard work, whether that's electronic or whether that's a physical, piece of paper that you put in your pocket that you carry around, or your binder. Yeah. So you got to put that into place. And the reason for the standard work is so that you don't have the slide back that you're referring to. So once you put it in, you know that you will go up so high and you'll come back for a little bit. That's okay. But you don't want to slide all the way back down and not have it happening at all. Yeah. So a lot of times, the second thing is visually, sometimes you go too aggressively. So when you put it in your planner, you see going again, and it's just too much for people. So make it simple. Make them commit to doing it once to twice a day. Maybe if you happen to be a senior person, once a week. If you happen to be the executive, once a month. Yeah. So make it something that they all can get involved with. And don't do it by yourself. So that's the other thing Baldwin was alluding to. So the Kaizen piece is you can only see so much with your own eyes. You got to go with others to see things even deeper. And so it's really a relationship building activity. So you're getting closer to people that you work with, the other leaders of the organization, the other sections of the organization, and so on. So do it together so that you guys can see things and make it happen. I think that's what creates the sustainability. It's a habit, right? We were talking about this becomes a habit. So once you go at 8 o'clock in the morning, let's say the shift starts at 8. A lot of leaders walk the plant for it at 7:30. They want to see it in its stagnant state first, so that when they actually go at 9 o'clock to do their Gemba walk, they know what has changed. So give it some sort of connection. Everything in lean, or I would like to call TPS, the true lean, right, is a system. It doesn't work by itself. So going to the Gemba is just not the one activity you do. It's always wrapped in other activities, other things. Okay, that's what I would say. Thanks for the question, though, Pelin.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Pelin. Thank you for joining. Gert-Jan, next question, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First question. There's no lean at all at our company, but I will try to
Yay!
give them some experience how great it is. I'm a big lean fan. But going to the Gemba, you can invite your director or your manager or whatever. But do you have to inform the people who are on the work floor that you're going to do this, or is it just going to the Gemba and people will ask questions? How will you arrange it? Do you have to pronounce it big on how?
Yeah, so a great question. And if you don't mind, I'll take this first. If that's okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you need to start with yourself, right? Because you need to model what others need to be doing. So you don't go and say, let's get everybody to go to the Gemba and this is how you do a Gemba walk. That's not going to work, right? So you first do it by yourself. You walk the Gemba, you start meeting people, they start seeing you repetitiously doing that. They know who you are. So you don't have to schedule those things then, right? So you build this sort of expectation. I'm going to see this individual guaranteed twice every day because that's what you started doing. All right. But those that you're bringing to the Gemba, if you remember the slide about the purpose, you know, the process and the people, you've got to make sure that you're aligned in a discussion like that. So what I do with executive teams that decide they want to go to the Gemba, you know, once a week, let's say operations managers, plant managers, things of that nature, is I create their communication cell, which is a huddle board, and it talks about people, performance, continuous improvement. We're gonna actually get into that in our next sessions as we move forward. But on there, I actually put going to Gemba kind of practice rule, and it's usually a spin wheel where you spin the wheel and it has two people's names on it. So two people from that executive team have to go to a very specific area to look at the Gemba and report back on it. What was good, what wasn't, so that you know they're physically going there. Yeah, you know that they're physically having that engagement. Now, on the first few, I'll go with them, you know, because I'm trying to drive that kind of mentality, and I want them to model it. But afterwards, it takes its own life, and it really rolls forward. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Yeah. Anything to add, Patagonia guys?
Yeah, you talk about going to the Gemba and making it a habit, taking people with you. So that's the way to go. You build a relationship with the people on the Gemba, but it's also vice versa with the management, of course, because you also make relationships over there and take them with you in this growing organically.
Yeah. You know, one thing I left out that I just want to add, just to be clear, when you're at the Gemba and there's a problem, not that you solve the problem, but let's say an employee or another leader brought that problem to your attention. It's imperative that you do something about the problem. You have to show them you are actioning what they've shared. That's when the floodgates open. That's when people start to bring more ideas, want to be a part of something. They'll volunteer to be at a Kaizen event and so on and so on. So you got to show them that you're sincere about solving their issues. Yeah. And so Taiichi Ono used to go to the Gemba all the time and ask questions like, what is tedious? Tedious meaning you got to pay very deep attention to detail to, because it's so minute, so small. And then what's dangerous? You know, what do you think is and what gets you dirty every day? So the goal was to try to fix those type of three things. And I always talk about those when I go to the Gemba as well. So I hope I helped.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Inge, next question, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, my name is Inge. Thanks for presentation. I'm a continuous improvement lead in a chemical company, Japanese Dutch. And my question is about the standard work around the executing the Gemba. What is your experience in your standards about your preparation activities, and do you also do any registrations afterwards about what your findings were or something like that?
Okay, so I really want to dive deep in this. First of all, I hear the word standardized work and standard work, but people don't really understand what that truly means. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to open up a slide real quick. Bowden, why don't you take that question while I get the standard work model open?
Yeah, if you if I do a Gemba walk typically, what the DJ said in the last question is that it's about truisms. So if you find something at the Gemba, you have to solve it. You have to show the people, the operations, that you are true with them. So which means I always do it very organically. If I go down the Gemba and you, for example, have 3 things to solve, focus on that and come back with the results in a short time. I rather not write down too much. If I have to to make, for example, a report, something like that, take photos because it's visual. You can show the visuals to everybody, and if you know the production, you know also the content of what you are photographing. So that makes the speed and for example, in a production area, it's only about production. The Gemba is the most important place. That's where it happens. So every distraction from that makes not producing anything. And we should avoid something like that. So big administrations, big reports, please do not, but please change it into something doable, into action as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
EJ?
So let me just add, first of all, going to the Gemba. And remember I showed you that picture where there was a little green sign and there was footprints and you stand right here and they had all these things. I want to tell you what that's about. It's the standard of looking at the Gemba. So, and now what do I mean by that? We created this standard because it has to be visual so everybody understands, right? But you start from taking your eyes, you're with someone, right? So you're not by yourself, and you start at the bottom left hand of the environment that you're looking at. So you're looking at about a 45 degree angle, right? That you're looking at an area, an operation. It could be 4 or 5 operators in there. It could be equipment that are in there. It doesn't matter. But you're actually starting at the bottom left hand. You're going across with visually looking, and then you go up to the middle. Then you come back across, and then you go up to the top, and then you come back across. And that way you see the entire environment. So you get to see, you know, the dust in the air. You get to see the electrical cords on the ground. You get to see the motion of the people and what they're doing. So in order for that to work, you've got to actually understand what standard work is. And so when we create standard work at the shop floor, we use this model. I'm going to share my screen real quick with you so that you understand I'm not speaking out of my hoo-hoo. Yeah. It's the 7 steps to standard work is what we call it. Yeah. But it's linked to PDCA. And the actual activity of your leader standard work and this going to Gemba kind of activity, the Gemba Walk, is in step 6 of sustainment, because that is 6 and 7 can be done in isolation, but 1 through 5 must be done in sequence in order to understand what these people are doing and how they do it. And you can see all the tools that we use in order to get to that point so that we understand exactly what they're doing. And then we can have more powerful kind of conversations with them in order to elevate the understanding and then the resolutions that we'll come up with to help people. So we actually take the time to build all of these things in sequence for every single position, for every single work element, which means the little tasks to the major tasks, right? So that everybody understands how that truly works and comes together. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. So I'll stop sharing here for a moment. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes time. If you were to do this in some sort of event, like a Kaizen event or a problem-solving event, then that would take, you know, a couple of days to actually gather and understand so that you can then make informed decisions. So applying standard work, understanding what it is, first of all, how to build it, and then apply it are all unique in themselves. So standard work, you want to have some bit of variability. What people don't understand is there are 3 types of standard work. 3 types. You have 100% standard work. Yeah. That 100% means that person does an activity exactly the same way every single time for that particular step. Yeah. And a lot of companies reside in this place. But then there's the second type of standard work, which is 80-20. It's 80% standardized, 20% customized or variable. There's variations in it. And so you want to just focus on the 80%. Let the variability one have its flexibility in it. And then the third type, which you might be familiar with, you know, when you start thinking of the automotive industry or a chemical industry or like maybe even like Gargano down there used to work with that big food processing type of industry, right? The third one is where it's 20% standardized and 80% flexible. So you always want to focus just on the standard piece, get that right before you start all this variability stuff that you're going to be dealing with. And so the way I sustain it is I put it in place, I visualize it. So every sequence, every step, every work process, you can be able to see it and understand it, and then you constantly tweak it, make it even better. The key to standard work is if it stays the same, it's outdated. It's got to constantly evolve. That's why the PDCA cycle is in there. It's constantly getting better. It's constantly getting easier. It's constantly getting safer. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, Inge, you asked a good question, but a long answer. Did we answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a lot of information.
If there's anything you want more on that, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I am familiar with the model that you've shown. You used it in Philips as well.
That's right. In fact, I built it with Philips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's where I
Good.
learned. But it's more difficult to translate it to chemical processes.
Well, I've worked with gas and oil companies around the globe, and where I usually start is with the leader standard work because it's simple. It's about your time. It's about what you look at, and then the standards that I put in, usually in a chemical type of environment, a processing kind of environment. It's point of use, point of focus. You have to go to certain points to see certain things. You can't just see it all happening in front of you. Yeah. So you got to really take some time to organize that. Yeah. So good luck on that.
Thank you very much. Miguel, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everybody. Hello, DA. I am Miguel Pastor from Lima, Peru. I am a continuous improvement engineering. Thanks, DA, for the great lessons. I have two questions, DA.
Yes,
The first one is, should a format be brought to Gemba Walk? If so, what should the format be like? And the second question is, if the company is so into quality circles and the team leader is has a lot of tasks to do in order to solve the problems, is if we implement Gemba Walks, it's not going to be a little bit overwhelming for the team leader because the number of tasks in order to solve the problem is going to increase for him.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna recap what you've asked, Miguel, and I think it was really good questions.
Yeah.
First, you want to know, is there a format to going to Gemba? Yeah, that's the first one. And the second one is, do we invite a certain kind of individual, a foreman, to the Gemba to see this so that they can understand? The answer to your question is yes and no. All right. Why yes and no? First of all, you need to go first. As I explained earlier to one of the questions, you need to be able to go there to understand things better. And normally you go there because of a problem. And normally you go there because maybe you've implemented something and you want to see how well it's working. It's one of those two issues usually. But the point is, the format is actually spending time observing. That time is what I would say is what's different. So some processes you might have to take an entire shift to understand, or even see it between shifts. Sometimes it might be just for 30 minutes because the process is so not as complex, right? So it all depends on the situation and the purpose and the rationale of why you're going to the Gemba. So the standard is go, and the standard is, understand, see, do, so that you can action things, yeah? So that's the whole point of it, yeah? Whether that foreman comes or not, usually I bring people to the Gemba because I want them to help in resolving something, or I want them to be a leader in another area and they need to learn how to do this. So there's a purpose behind why I'm inviting that person along. So I don't take every leader by the hand and try to take them to the Gemba because, all leaders need to go to Gemba and we're 10 people coming to this one person's area and everybody's going, oh my God, what's happening? That's not the goal. The goal is to go in small groups, but go in multiple areas. That's the goal, yeah? So I often see, general managers or operations managers, they walk the Gemba from like 9 to 9:30, but they walk through the entire plant. It does absolutely no good for anybody, right? They just get to see how things are happening. They get it. I saw the Gemba, great, but your hands didn't get dirty. Your hands did not get dirty. So it's probably a wasteful activity. Yep. Hope I answered your question, Miguel.
Yes, definitely. Ralph.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Such goody. Long time no see.
How are you?
Yeah, long time no see. So yeah, we're currently in the process of well, basically rebuilding a production system. But nevertheless, we're downsizing in batch sizes at the shop floor to make it fit better.
Yes.
One of the things we see during the Gemba walks is when you engage with the people on the floor, they are mostly talking about external factors. Yeah, but the planning department needs to do this, and they need to do. Yeah, what are the ways? Yeah, what are the ways to turn that around into action?
Great question.
Yeah.
You want to start? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. That's the first thing we ever heard when we go to Gemba, pointing at the back office. And that's why I always start with beginning small, because start to begin with your own area, starting with solutions you can solve. And solutions which you can bring into your own system. That's also in the example I showed you. I gave the Gemba, the operators, the tooling to bring up solutions just by themselves as they built their own cards, for example. They made their own calculations, and paper is for free. And it goes very fast. So if you can influence the solution, you can also influence the speed when it's solved. And that that's very, very powerful if you learn them how to do that. And if you keep it small, that's also the thing I would advise to you.
Okay.
I like that insight, Bowden. Appreciate that. And I think I'm going to hit this from a different angle for Ralph. When I was with you a couple of times and we were setting up that model area, somebody said, "Oh, you can't do that because engineering." Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what did we do? We took those guys, we walked over to engineering, we talked directly to the people they were pointing the fingers to and said, "Why can't we change this?" And they were like, "Oh, you can change it." And they gave us the history then behind it. A lot of it is perception. But I will tell you that when the fingers are being pointed away from that individual, what they're asking for is, please help me resolve this. That's what they're really saying when they point it to someone. So then go there with them, go and have that discussion. It's well worth the relationship building component for driving the transformation. Yeah. And then you'll come to a solution. You'll be able to then get over that roadblock. Yeah. So then the next time when they have something and if they point a finger again, you're like, well, you saw what happened last time. So we're probably going to come up with the same thing. So what do you want to do? Because you've already showed them that it does work. And I think that's very, very important. I just recently got back from a Japanese company, and I walked in there and I said, "Listen, you have some serious issues with this particular process step of your caliper, yeah, that you're building." And those individuals were like, "Yeah, but it's actually coming from the forming over there. We can't do nothing about it." I was, really? So I took that same guy, walked him over to the casting form area, and said, "Hey, does this come out of your area?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." And then we started talking about it. And then that guy started talking to him in Japanese about it. And before you know it, they realized what they needed to do to resolve that particular little thing. So it's about getting them involved. Take them there. Don't let that be a habit in your culture of pointing the fingers and just letting it, oh, it's them. Because that is eventually going to grow and, really start to fester. And that's not what you need in the culture. Your job is actually to come to the end of mind of a solution, to help them see the problem differently, to help resolve that problem someday. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the questions.
Can I add something to that?
Well, you have another question. Yeah.
I have no question, but I want to add something to the point of Ralph.
Please.
Something helps me is the thing that when you point one finger at someone else, there are three fingers pointing towards yourself. Yeah. So that might help as well. It's a funny thing to remember it when someone's pointing at someone else. Tell them there are three fingers pointing back to themselves. Maybe
absolutely. And you know what that really says, boss? I want to add to that because I use it all the time. But it also says this: until you've tried three things to resolve it yourself, don't go talk to that person that you're complaining about. Don't go to that area. Try something on your own. That's also the message too. So great. Paradigm.
Please,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, another one, Gert-Jan.
Yeah, I heard about the three fingers looking at yourself. I usually use it also, but as someone who's really stubborn and he's saying, well, a long time ago, I went there.
Yeah.
I said it like 1,000 times
Yes.
and they're not listening. And I stopped telling them. And if they want to know, they come to me. So how do you react on that kind of people?
Yeah.
Well, you know, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Me or you? I would love to answer this.
If somebody tells me that, it happens to me, I think twice, 3 times a week. And I said, if you tried it 1,000 times, you are not finished yet, because you need to try more. You tell them again, because it's about rehearsing. It's about doing it time after time. And maybe you didn't tell them the right thing. And the other thing I would suggest is ask questions. Just be humble and really take the time to listen, which means maybe you have to slow down your time. We always are in a rush, but if you want to hear what somebody has to tell you, you must not be in a rush. You have to take your time, and you have to be really interested in that person. What do you mean? And if you are interested, you ask the right questions. That's the way it works.
Yeah, that's Plato's statement. Yeah. Asking the right question, but being interested. All right, DJ.
Yeah, so I love the Zen point of perspective that Bowden just shared with you, right? But you know what? Sometimes, I hope I'm going to say your name right, Gert-Jan?
No, it's Gert-Jan. Just like
Gert-Jan.
spitting. I will say in American, just like spitting. Gert-Jan.
The G always messes with me, okay? But yeah, but the point I really wanted to say is sometimes the message is correct. It's the messenger that has the issue. What I'm trying to say is sometimes if you want something to happen and they've said it 1,000 times, right? Maybe they've been saying it 1,000 times, but they've been so adamant about it, nobody really wants to hear it anymore. So sometimes change the messenger. The message can be the same, and that'll get through to them. And the second thing I'd like to point out to you is that is also a true indicator of how somebody truly feels about that point. In other words, they were dedicated to it, and now it's like, I'm giving up. So you have to give them some energy back to say, you got a great point. We're going to make this thing work. It's going to happen. I just need your help, right? You need to get them on your side. And believe it or not, those people are normally so easy to turn that fire back on with. You just got to help them with it. Yeah. So a lot of times when I was in companies, I would say, you want me in that meeting? And it would be better that I'm not in the meeting. They would get their points across because I wasn't there. If I was there, I might hinder some of that. So sometimes change the messenger is my point. Yeah. And stick to them because it's an emotional connection. It truly is. And they should be on your side. Yeah.
Last week, I invited some people he was talking about and put them together in one room. A shame he wasn't there because he had some other things to do at home. I don't know, maybe on purpose. But his colleague came, and then I went after and informed him about the session, and he still was like, I'm not going over there. They have to come to me if they want to know. So he's
and that's
really stubborn. That's
right. So that is because it's been allowed to be that way. And the only way you can change it is by changing the dynamics of it. Yeah. So go to him, but go to him once, go to him twice, but on the third one, go like, you need to come over here now. Make that transition. You got to show them that you're open to that. I'm open to coming to you, but I'm also open that you need to go to others. Yeah. This can't be just a one-way kind of activity because, the reality is you spend more time at your work than you do actually with your family. So when you're frustrated with the people at your work and you just give up and you're like, they come to me, that causes animosity. That causes things that fester and then grow into the culture that are not good. So you should be the one to model to say, yeah, I'll come to you. Yeah, I'll come to you. Now let's go over there. So-and-so wants to see us. Get up and go to the Gemba. Get up, go to different locations. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there more questions? I don't see any electronic hands in the screen.
And we still have like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we have some time left.
Maybe
It's a lot of information.
maybe I've a question for you, DJ. As you have been traveling all around the world, seeing different sites, do you see differences due to cultural different backgrounds of the production sites, locations?
With regards to going to Gemba, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that, every culture has its uniquenesses, right? And it was really funny that when I came to the Netherlands last year, the first thing everybody said to me was, just so you know, the Netherlands people are pretty straightforward. They're gonna tell you how it is. And then about a day or two later, they were like, man, DJ, you're pretty straightforward. So they realize that, you can share your insights and I can share my insights and we can move forward. But going to the Gemba in different countries requires understanding the culture that you're in. And I'm not just talking about the language culture, right? Like you're Dutch. I'm actually talking about the culture of that company, the way they work, the way of working within that company. Every company has something unique. And you can see those that are very dogmatic, very structured. No decisions are made except for the general manager makes. Everybody has to get that approval. And then you can see where, there's others where, there's latitude given and you're able to go down to the Gemba and they're able to make decisions and move forward. But what I found very interesting is how everything escalates. So the Gemba Walk is an opportunity to highlight something and then start to do something about it. But sometimes you don't have all the time, the right expertise, the right resources to accomplish that. So it has to be escalated. So I think by organizing your huddle boards, your communication cells, whatever you like to call them, tier boards, and having that a part of every section and having other people visit other people's sections, that's when you can have that escalation system of things going up and down the management tiers to get things resolved. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that I've observed in going to different cultures, whether they be very, dogmatic or whether they be very open and creative. It's a lot of fintech companies I go into that I dealt with. They all sit in the same room. Nobody has a single, office. There's not a single office. Everybody's all right there. So you can easily talk to each other. But believe it or not, the screen is in the way, right? Because that's what they work off. That's what they deal with. So even though the person's like 3 feet away, they don't even go talk to them for the issue. They'd rather send them an email so they have some documentation on it, because, it's just the way it is. So go to the Gemba, enjoy it. Yeah.
Excellent. If there are no more questions, are there any more questions? Can you raise your hands? Otherwise, we might go.
I have one question for everybody. I would really like to see if you could click the button of the hands raised, not that you're going to ask a question, just to say if you have this or not. How many of you have currently developed your own leader standard work? If you would, please click the hand button so I can see how many of you on here actually have it. So there's a thumbs up button. There you go, thumbs up button. So I got one, and that's amazing, isn't it? You want to apply standard work to other people's jobs, but the simple thing of your day and organizing your day, 2 people, right? You don't have that standard set up yet. And I think that's a very good starting point. A very good starting point that you should go out there, create leader standard work, because it starts the discipline. It starts that point of interaction, and why you're going to the Gemba, who you're teaching today, or who you're trying to, instill some wisdom or some competency in, what you're looking at and so on. It's not just going to these meetings that go around the table and then you get out of the meeting and nothing was done. You're actually accomplishing things. So I encourage you to adopt the leader standard work. And we're going to talk about that in some of the future sessions that are coming up.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for the 2 thumbs up. Woo!
I see one hand right again. Is it a question or not?
3 thumbs.
Yes, I have.
Somebody. Sorry?
Yes, I have a question.
You have a
Hi,
question?
DJ.
Yeah.
Pleasure
Hey.
to see you, and
Very
thanks
good.
for all warnings shared. Thank you.
No worries, no worries.
I have a question. How would you approach a consultancy in a company which already have some experience with implementing Gemba, but they have a negative emotions or not a very good opinion on implementing Gemba? So simply they hate the word Gemba, or they don't want to do this due to their bad experience previously.
Yes, clear question.
Great,
The
great
language.
question. And you know what? I should expect that from you, Gurgana. You're doing an awesome job. Hey, so let me share my thoughts on this just real briefly. First of all, I've never been number one going into a company.
No.
I've never been the first consultant in a company. There's always been other consultants that have gone in before me. The difference is in the results, in the way you engage. So the first thing you want to focus on if you're trying to get into a company and you're trying to do a powerful Gemba walk is help them solve something. That's the goal. You have to help them solve something. They will see you differently because you do that. If you're internally and you're a leader and you're going to the Gemba and you help solve something for your own people, they see you differently. Same as a company will a consultant. They'll do the same thing. So that's the first thing I think. Help people solve an issue. Now, that doesn't mean you physically solve it, but you get them pointed in the right direction to solve it. Yeah. So you're creating some sort of value. And my goal, I've said to so many people that have joint ventures with, Patagonia being one of them, and Gurgana Divas Solutions being another, is always about, taking the bad taste out of the word consultant that people have in their mouth, because people think a consultant comes in, gets paid, and then they just leave. They don't do anything. Well, by doing, you prove to them that it's not just the money. You're getting value from that action. You're getting value from the interaction, from the solutions, from the problem solved, and so on and so on. Yeah, I think that's very important. Hope I answered your question. Bowden, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If you accompany a bad taste into a production area you come to, then it's at the beginning it's not very easy to overcome that. So I always be honest with that and just say that, because but I never finger point to other consultants because they only did their best. I think, but what's most important is that what I always say is, okay, let's start over again, listen again to what needs to be solved, and really get to work, because get your hands dirty, as DJ says, and make it work. Which also is very important, as I say always to other colleagues, and also if I have to train CI consultants, then I always say, you are not only here to listen or to bring solutions, but also to throw away, to overcome roadblocks, which means you can go to through the factory diagonally, and if you have to go to the boardroom, please go there and bring the message from the shop floor, because then you become really the ears of the director or the CEO, and that's all in the game. So that's what builds trust, that's and just as the song said, let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me add something to that, because I think you brought up a very good point, and I started thinking about something that happened in my past, and I want to bring this, so making it real, because there's an individual on here today that is a very dear good friend of mine, somebody that I've trained for many years. His name's Jose Pinto. He's actually worked many years in Macau in the casino industry. Now he's in the universities doing his teachings there. But I have to tell you, I remember the day that I got to work in his company. His company was called Sands China down there, and they had the Venetian, all of those big casino things, 6 different properties, something of that nature. But I was on a phone call, and I was with my Chinese consultant colleague, and their approach was, I need to ask you questions. I shouldn't answer your questions. I need you to answer my questions first. And so I jumped on that call quickly. I opened my mic and said, whoa, 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 real quick. Jose and his team of executives asked me a question. DJ, how do you do a Kaizen event? And I said, I'm going to tell you how I do a Kaizen event. And I told them it was a 4-1-4. 4 weeks of prep, 1 week on site doing it, and 4 weeks of execution and making sure it sustains. Yeah. And then they said, yeah, but how does that week work? And then I broke down every single day on exactly how I did it. And by the end of that conversation, they were like, I could tell, they were like, this guy's different. He's shared everything of what he's going to do. And I know he's going to get a result. And instantly the following, I think 2 weeks, I was in their company helping them do that, because I didn't avoid the question. I answered it directly, and I gave them something different than they've experienced before. And I think that's very powerful. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Jose?
Spot on, DJ. That's great. Good old times.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any more questions or remarks or experiences or yes? Jorge?
Yes, I just want to say Gemba has to be done not only inside the factory, but as well as outside of the factory, everywhere. Yes. That gives a good impression. I just want to remind you that working with leadership or working with top people doesn't mean that only look around. I have to be honest. What I learned from my father, if you want to achieve something, no matter what level you are, keep in touch with your people. Yeah. That's important. Just say, good morning, few words, and that's it. And just keep it in mind. Just do it once a month. That has to be daily. The more close to the people, you achieve more. You achieve trust. That's important.
Hey, Jorge, can you turn your video on? I want to see who you are.
Wow, you don't see me?
No, we don't see you. We just see your name.
You see my name?
Just your name.
Okay.
Hey, there you go.
Now you see me.
Hey, yes, let me share something that you brought up, because I think it's spot on. It's a perfect statement. When I go into a factory and I want to teach the Gemba Walk, I also do that at lunchtime. I also do that on the way back from lunch to the next session or whatever we're going to be doing, because I want them to see the outside of the factory. I never walk through the factory. I always walk around it. And a lot of people are like, well, I go, what's that? They don't even know what that is, because they've never gone there. So I think your point of making sure it's not just inside a factory or inside of an operation, but also through the supply chains, through your vendors, through your other relationships that you have of people that do things for you. You need to do that type of Gemba Walk with them, because it builds the relationship. And I totally agree. And your dad was spot on. Thank him. So thanks for your insights, George.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the questions. We have a few minutes left. We're going to the end, which means that we would like to share you one topic about the tour to Japan, what I earlier mentioned. So if we can share the screen again, then DJ, you can use the final moments and minutes to explain a little more about the tour to Japan that we are going to organize.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks, Jeroen. I appreciate the time and the effort that you guys put into making this a stellar event. I'm just happy that all worked out right. Yeah. What I would say to you is simply this: this tour is not for everyone to go on. Okay, that's number one. If you're not in the right frame or reference for your organization to learn new things to be able to go back and adopt, then it's probably not the right time to go there. I'll tell you when the right times are. It's either when you're starting your transformation and you want to understand and build a roadmap of what good looks like for your organization. That's a good time to go. The second time to go is when you've already been in your transformation for quite some time, but you're starting to get stuck. You're starting to get stagnant. This is a time to go to what we call an immersion tour. Yeah. So that you get to go see what others are doing, and it brings up information into your head and insights, new insights of the arts of the possible. Yeah. So what's unique about my tour that I do here in Japan? I mean, we're going to go to many of the sites that other companies go to as well, but we also go to ones that are very near and dear to my heart. I make sure you always see a Toyota plant of some kind. a supplier of Toyota, so you can see how the web really works in the supply chain. And then I take you to odd places, at least 3 to 4 other different industries, type of environments where you can actually see lean being applied. And what I try to do is on day one, I try to just give an insight of what TPS is. But then I want to see what you see on that tour. And then when you don't see the right things on that tour, then I sort of highlight that. And then the next day, I put a pair of lenses on you. I say, there are 3 lenses we're going to look at. And you can see the 3 lenses down in there. Yeah, there's a management lens, a behavior type of lens, right? There's also, the customer type of lens. There's also the technical type of lens. So you want to be able to see all of those very clearly. So as you click, one day you wear this lens. The next day you wear this lens. The third day you wear this lens. By the 4th day, you have all the paradigms that you need. So the last place that we visit should bring it all together. And the way we bring it all together is by creating a plan with you. And I don't care if it's a roadmap that you need, or we just put it on an A3 of something that you're going to implement. The goal is that you leave, and in 30 days, you are doing things back in your new site. And so I afford a coaching session, a one-on-one coaching session, as well as a group coaching session like this for the tour. And that gets everybody to be sharing. And therefore, you can always reach back into your network and get other ideas as you journey through your years. The last thing that I would say is you also walk away from this particular event a changed person. I mean, it will change you in the way you understand the concepts of TPS. And you'll learn that it's more about the people than the tools. It's only 20% of the tools, 80% about the people, And if you come as a team, for example, I'm so happy that Patagonia is coming. And they're going to go 3 consultants, and they're going to enjoy and then learn and then actually come back as a solid, robust, energetic type of team, because that's the goal of the tour. The goal of the tour is to make things focused, laser focused, so that you know exactly what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and why you're doing it. Yeah. So I do think that if you want to see a collage of the week, we'll be more than glad to share a collage of how actually it works and how every session is, how the days work day by day, the time, and all the different locations that you go. So Japan is a small country. It's only pretty much where we travel, and it's less than 3,000 kilometers in a circle, if you may. So we can go either, Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo. There'll be all these different areas that we'll be focused in on, and we'll see all these different kinds of insights. We also do one unique thing, and we take you to a restaurant that does what they call their emotional morning meeting, but it happens at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because that's when the restaurant opens for the evening. But it's such an immersive kind of experience that people are yelling. They got to yell at the top of their lungs, what's important to them, and so on and so on. And you get to see this firsthand, and you ask why. And then the leader of that particular environment shares the reasons why. And everybody's not there for a long time, because it's a restaurant, right? People don't like to work in restaurants all their lives, unless you're a cook, and you love to be a chef or something of that nature, right? These people, they come and they go, but they want to make sure that they help them on their personal goals while they're with their organization. And the only way they can is focus on it daily. And I tell you what, it's a powerful experience. And I hope that some of you that are on this call today, if you want to join us, that's fine. We usually accept about 16 to 18 people. Right now we have 9, so it's about 50%, but it is going to happen. And we welcome you to join us. If there's any questions on it, by all means, reach out to our colleagues at Patagonia or to myself as well. And I'll be more than glad to answer. Good. That was a quick pitch. Yeah.
That was a quick pitch. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody who joined this morning, who joined us with this second Unplugged session. To your information, on September the 7th, we will do the next one talking about Kamishibai. So you are free to enter the session then as well. In the meantime, we will share all the information with you. We will follow up on you. And what I would like to add and ask as last point, if you have a good Gemba walk today or tomorrow, please share us your experience and come back with reflections so we can help you and we can mutually enjoy the power of the Gemba walk. Yeah. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very